Hello there once again to all my assassins and hidden ones. Welcome back to the Acolyte Podcast. In this episode, I'm going to talk about the report that came out very recently about Codename Hexe that came from Tom Henderson of Insider Gaming, and just go through some of the details of what he talks about Codename Hexe, because it could be something that's really awesome and cool, or it could be something that turns out to be not so great. So let's get into it. So Tom Henderson, if you don't know, is like the new Assassin's Creed leaker guy, as I've described him. Every month or 2 months, he gives us new info on Assassin's Creed. I think they are actual leaks. His track record has been pretty impeccable, but really over the last couple years, I think since Mirage, maybe right before it got announced, because I think, if I remember correctly, sometime in 2022, he started, becoming this insider, quote unquote. He's reported on details, a lot of them actually, for Assassin's Creed Codename Red, which is due at the end of 2024. He's given us a bunch of reports on every single project for Assassin's Creed that's being worked on right now, from Codename Nebula, which is like another single player style game with 3 settings. He's given us details on the new modern day story. He's given us details on the multiplayer projects that are also in the works. And now he's got more info on Codename Hexe. And I kind of want to get into it because it's really intriguing, and I'm fascinated by this game in general. So just to give a little background, this game was announced back at the Assassin's Creed Celebration stream in 2022. We did get a rumor about it beforehand, right before, but that's basically when we knew about it for real. We have gotten several rumors and reports on the game, mostly from Tom Henderson, as well as other Assassin's Creed insiders. One of those people said the game was going to be more linear focused, and that kind of tracks with what was said about the game back at the Celebration live stream, where one of the guys that was on there was talking about Codename Hexe is like a new take on the franchise, and a lot of people assumed that meant it's just going to be dark and sort of being more horror than what Assassin's Creed has ever, really done or tackled. I never thought it was going to be horror, because I don't like horror games or movies or genre in general. And I thought they wouldn't make that drastic of a change. But I thought it would be way more mature, because they're going to tackle the witch trials that occurred throughout the Holy Roman Empire in the 16th century. So that, paired with being a more linear focused game, which was one of the reports or rumors that came out about the game, kind of makes it very intriguing, as well as taking this darker tone. And Tom Henderson's report that just came out about this game talks about the character being chased by guards through a dark, dank, cobbled streets or cobble-filled streets of a city. And I think that, and the Holy Roman Empire is basically a territory, but it encompassed most of Germany and parts of other Central European countries. And I think we will see a couple major cities in this game, like Cologne, Hamburg, Frankfurt, which are all located in Germany, as well as the ones outside of Germany, like Vienna and Prague. And that's really cool as well. And a lot of those cities do have this sort of like reputation by people that don't live there about being dark cities. Kind of like how people have that assumption about the UK or England, you know, where it's always raining. Stuff like that. So like I said, setting super intriguing. The maturity of the game or the tone that it's going for is very welcome by me. And that's all great and fine and dandy. But the other thing he talked about in his report, and he received a video from a insider that also showed the main character, who's supposed to be a female lead, using magic or casting a spell to possess a cat while she's being chased through the city in order to distract guards. Now, as soon as I heard that, I fucking rolled my eyes. I kid you not. Assassin's Creed has gone down this road of adding more mythological elements, which I've tackled so many times on my episodes, and being borderline fantasy elements until you get to one of the expansions for Valhalla, and actually it's in the base game as well, with the Asgard area or part of the game where you're basically using magic in a lot of different ways, mostly gameplay wise. The pieces of Eden in that game are also magic. They're not grounded like they should be and have been within the lore. So when I heard him use the word magic, I was pretty annoyed. However, there is something to be said that he may have misinterpreted what he saw. But basically what I mean by misinterpreted is him using that word magic is just common vernacular when someone sees maybe what this character did. You know, like if you go what I just stated basically about Valhalla, let's say having one of those pieces of Eden like Mjolnir, where you swing the hammer and it creates this electric sonic boom thing. And someone goes, oh, that's just magic. Or, as other people have stated before, using, like, say, the Apple of Eden in the old games, and people go, oh, well, that's magic. So people have different interpretations of what magic could be. And I think that he may have, like I said, misinterpreted what he saw, and also maybe doing this game a bit of a disfavor by using that word, because a lot of people are talking about it and being like, oh, it's the same old Ubisoft, whether it's in respect to adding more fantasy or magic elements to Assassin's Creed. Or one person I saw, I didn't watch the video, but it said something like, Ubisoft just doesn't know what they're doing. But to be fair, they've garnered that reputation for themselves. That's their fault. That's what happens when you try and change your franchise or evolve it. You're going to receive criticism like this and have people sort of think that you're going through an identity crisis, because most popular IPs or games, they don't have this problem. It's like, you know what that specific game is going to be. Assassin's Creed changes every 3 to 5 years, or 3 to 5 games. And it sucks, like, if the game does turn out to be good, and maybe this use of the term magic is misinterpreted, like I said, and it's more grounded within the world of Assassin's Creed. But there's already people that have written it off because of what they just heard. But, you know, those people are going to play it anyway. But it just gives people who are misinformed or uninformed, that aren't checking on every single detail of the games like me, and they just hear one or two things about a game and then they go, oh yeah, that doesn't sound good, so I don't want to play that. And that's unfortunate, but like I said, Ubisoft, they dug themselves in this hole. That's their fault, even though it hasn't affected their bottom line to this point. So the team that's behind the development of Codename Hexe is Ubisoft Montreal. That specific team, they made Valhalla, they made Origins, and they made Black Flag. And Valhalla did have a lot of mythical elements to it, bringing in the Asgard sections and having weapons that and abilities that are way more fantasy based, bringing in a major expansion that was that as well with the Dawn of Ragnarok expansion, and the free update with Forgotten Saga. All that stuff was, in my opinion, fantasy content. I think you could compare it to something like the Witcher series. And so that kind of bodes not good for the possibility of Codename Hexe, because this is set within the witch trials that occurred during the 16th century. And the Holy Roman Empire is basically tied to the Catholic Church, and they looked at anybody that practiced sort of paganism or occult types of beliefs or whatever. They deemed them heathens, or in this case, witches. And so that could lend itself to having a lot of magic or magic elements in the game. That was definitely my first thought when I heard that this was going to be the setting. And that's kind of scary to think about. I pray to whoever that they got all that shit out of their system with Valhalla, and we'll just have to wait and see what happens with it. If it is more magical and casting spells like your fucking Harry Potter or something, or if it's more of the grounded type of style where, like I said, these people were deemed as witches, but there's no like actual, magical stuff happening. And so on the other side of that, if it is going to be grounded to a large extent, this stuff that was deemed witchcraft was more science and alchemy based. And one potential thing that they can bring in that was actually in Valhalla, just as a reference, is basically like tied to this whole idea of alchemy, is something known as the Philosopher's Stone. Now this is actually a real thing within history, within our real world history. And this is the kind of shit that I love about Assassin's Creed, if they can implement this properly. So the Philosopher's Stone is a mythic alchemical substance capable of turning base metals into gold or silver. It is also called the elixir of life, useful for rejuvenation and for achieving immortality. And for many centuries, it was the most sought after goal in alchemy. So that shit I just read right there, I just got that off of Wikipedia. This is the kind of amazing historical shit that Assassin's Creed should tackle. And this kind of stuff makes me giddy as fuck that they could potentially have this within the game. And like I said, they mentioned the Philosopher's Stone in Valhalla, but at the time I didn't know what it was, and I didn't even look it up, but I thought like, oh, that's interesting, I wonder what that means. And then they completely ignored it. But in this case, the Philosopher's Stone is the main thing, and when it talks about the elixir of life and rejuvenation, that basically ties into it being sort of like a piece of Eden sort of thing. And man, I hope that they can achieve that goal or set out to do that. And that would be amazing to tie that in to the game and have it grounded in our real world and tie it into the pieces of Eden. So I can't wait to see what happens with that. The next thing that he talks about in the report was reported earlier this year, and that the game is going to feature one playable protagonist who is female. Now, that makes sense with the whole witch trial motif that they're going for. It would be weird, I think, if it was a male character in that sense, even though I don't think that males weren't tried for witchcraft. It was mostly women who were tried or accused of witchcraft. Now, there's some things I want to talk about with that. First of all, I am not somebody who really cares whether or not the playable protagonist in a game is male or female. My thing is always I want the best story possible. I don't care about gender. I played the rebooted Tomb Raider games. I love some of the female characters throughout Assassin's Creed. People like Evie and Aya, even though they weren't the main characters. But I have no problem with that. I never have with that in and of itself. But there was something that was said by somebody who is working on this game, apparently, that the game has a lot of feminine energy, quote unquote. And with the fact that we are in a day and age where feminism has really become much more popular, and things like male main protagonists, especially white male main protagonists, are becoming criticized, or like the games or products are being criticized for having that in it. That's the kind of thing that worries me. I don't care if you have a female character in your game or in any other game, but when you are trying to push an agenda with a female character and calling it major feminine energy, and maybe because of these women that were tried for witchcraft, maybe there's a lot of female characters, main characters within the story, and that's maybe what this person meant by that. But don't be doing that shit to push an agenda or push a narrative. I hate using this word, but political, because for me at least, I can't speak for anybody else, but for me, mostly I want games to be an escape. Now, Assassin's Creed inherently tackles a lot of themes about politics and religion, and it has for a long time. And that's fine with me, because it ties into our real world. But it was never forced down our throats, at least not in most cases. You started seeing some of that as time went on. I remember, I could be wrong, it may have happened earlier, maybe AC3, but especially in Syndicate, where it was like a critique on capitalism. And then you're seeing more of this kind of stuff in future games. And it's plaguing the industry. And I think people in general are fed up with this agenda that's being shoved down their throats. And I guarantee you, 90% of people do not care or give a damn what gender the character is that you're playing. They just want a good story, a good narrative, a fun game. So leave your fucking politics at the door. Ubisoft in the past, and even people working on this game on the Montreal team, are very quote unquote woke, very liberal. And so that shit worries me, because you can have whatever political opinion you want, even though I think that you're using your platform to push an agenda, and I don't think that's right. I think you should give all people the chance to decide for themselves. You should give them the information, but not force it to them. But that is outside of, the magic stuff that I talked about. A feminist agenda is definitely what I'm most worried about with this game. Again, I want to reiterate the fact that I do not care if the character is a female. I think that's awesome. I love any character as long as they are a strong and well-written character. Doesn't matter the game. I want more awesome female characters in Assassin's Creed. It's been a crime that we haven't had more of them, and obviously that was something that, and I've litigated this before, and you can Google it or research it. People that worked at the company prior to this game had mandates that they did not want main female characters because of their old school thinking that adolescent teen boys that play this game don't want to play a female. And I think that that is not accurate. I really don't. Like I said, I think most people don't care. They just don't want politics shoved down their throat. So here's to hoping that this female character is a lovely character, is a well-written character, and she just is amazing and awesome without being written to be preachy or feminist or whatever. So I want to end the episode with this conclusion. Everything that I've heard about Codename Hexe up to this point, in terms of the setting, the time period, the style of game that it is, being linear, and the motif of the game, the atmosphere of the game, the aesthetic of it, and potential historical things it could feature, it almost has me more excited for Codename Hexe than I am for Codename Red or even Codename Nebula. And I think that this is also sort of in that sweet spot that I've talked about that Assassin's Creed should tackle in terms of the historical timeline. There's a lot of stuff that went on in this point. Something that ties into the Holy Roman Empire as well around this time that I didn't talk about was the Protestant Reformation, and a major figure of that was named Martin Luther, not Martin Luther King, Martin Luther. And Protestantism broke off from the Catholic Church. It's sort of a denomination of Christianity, but they are slightly different from each other. And so that is another thing that they could bring in, and all this stuff put together definitely has my curiosity. I am very intrigued by it. Like I said, I don't think it's going to be a horror game, but I think it's going to be more mature themes, tackling this sort of witch trial stuff. And I kind of can't wait to have it properly revealed. Of course, all the rumors we're hearing are coming from legit sources. But after I heard about Codename Hexe this week, I basically almost forgot about Codename Red. And that's coming out hopefully within the next few months. And I am excited for Codename Nebula. I have an episode where I talked about that, and it's supposed to have like 3 settings, but it's more of the classic style. Codename Red is going for the RPG style. This game was confirmed to be something new or a new take on the brand. We suspect from a source that's also a major insider for Assassin's Creed that it's going to be more linear focused. I don't think it's going to be straight linear. I think there's going to be more open areas and maps, kind of like AC2 and even Valhalla to a certain extent. Take away like maybe England, but you're going to have like a map that's the city of Cologne, and you're going to have a map that's the city of Prague. Something like that. You'll be able to freely explore in between those cities. Or not in between, but I mean those cities themselves. You just can't travel in real time from one city to the other. That's what the RPG games are for. So, really cool setting, really cool potential for this game with the Philosopher's Stone stuff and more Isu stuff. I'm always down for that. So I really can't wait to see what's going on with this game. And I almost feel like now Codename Red is the setting I've wanted forever with feudal Japan. It's almost going to feel like a placeholder now to Codename Hexe. Unless Codename Red just blows me away. And that reveal, or at least the official reveal of the game itself, will be within the next 6 weeks or so. Maybe I'll feel like Codename Hexe is on the back burner at that point, but I want to give this a little bit of attention because it is a setting that I think not a lot of people know about, and a setting that is cool and could be utilized in an awesome way. And that's all I got for this episode, talking about Assassin's Creed Codename Hexe. If you made it this far, thank you so much for listening to the Acolyte Podcast. Please check out all my other episodes on Spotify or Spreaker, and check back to my YouTube page for more content on Assassin's Creed in general. We're gearing up for the next era of Assassin's Creed, and I think whether or not the games are good or they are what I hope they are, it's going to be a fun ride. So with that being said, keep to the shadows, and I will see you next time.